Hey everyone, Sheldon here, and welcome to part 1 of how to make your hardened paper kunai. This project is very good for beginners. It doesn't have any moving parts, so it's pretty easy to construct the entire thing. So you need a lot of paper for this project, and I usually use just a bunch of old graded schoolwork because you could consider it to be recycling. So we're going to be building this front section first. I recommend making multiple copies of the blueprint because it will be a lot more accurate if you cut out the exact same shape every time and glue all of those pieces together. Since the front section of the kunai is pretty small, we can fold the paper in kind of a smaller orientation. You see, you can fold paper in different directions and get longer or shorter pieces. You would fold a shape like this for something kind of small and boxy, and you would fold a shape like this for something a little bit longer but still pretty small, and then something like this for a much larger piece in this direction. In this case, we're going to be folding the paper in this direction, just like this. And I usually use Elmer's Glue All because it seems to work the best for projects like this. School glue doesn't work as well. Wood glue works really well, but it takes forever to dry. So you can start off by spreading the glue on one half of the paper, just like this. And then you find something flat that you can spread the glue around with to make it even. So it doesn't really matter what it is, as long as it can spread the glue around evenly. And now you just need to fold it over, just like this, and push down in the middle first, just like that, and out toward the edges. Then you can find something like a pencil or a pen or a marker or something like that to run all of the excess air and glue out. And you just flip it over and run it out toward the edges. It seems to work the best like that. And now you can fold the paper in this direction, so it's still kind of a square shape. And make sure you crease it. And do the exact same thing. Right now this is only 4 layers thick, and I usually build all of my parts 16 layers at a time. As you can see, if I hold this next to the blueprint like this piece is slightly longer than the piece we're going to be building first. So it fits on there in that direction, but if I put it on here like this, you can easily tell I can fit 2 going across, just like that. Since this is only 4 layers and I can fit 2 of them across, I'm going to cut this down the middle. I usually just use the mat here or a ruler to find the center and just follow the line down. And then I use a ruler like this to cut along. It's probably better to have a metal one because the knife can sometimes cut the plastic one, but you know, it's all I have right now. So now I have 2 4-layer pieces, and if I glue these together I will have 8 layers. We used to be able to fit 2 of these flat blueprint images going across, but if we glue both of these together, I will only be able to fit 1 of these blueprint images, but instead of it being 4 layers, it will be 8 layers. So now I'm going to glue these together really quick. All you need to do is the exact same thing, only they're 2 separate pieces now. So like I said, I build all of my parts 16 layers at a time, and so far this piece is only 8 layers. If I cut this piece in half and glued both of those 8-layer pieces together, yes, I would have 16 layers, but it would be too thin in this direction for this image to be glued to the top of this piece. If this was only this wide, just like that, you can definitely tell it wouldn't fit on there. So I'm going to have to make another one of these 8-layer pieces and glue both of those together to form a 16-layer piece. So here is another 8-layer piece right here. So now if I glue both of these together, I will have one 16-layer piece. So you just do the exact same thing. So this is the 16-layer piece right here, and we're going to need about 9 or 10 of these. So every 16-layer piece is about 70 thousandths of an inch thick, or about 2 millimeters. So 16 layers equals 0.070 or 2 millimeters. So remember, this is the front view and this is the right side view. So if I held this like this and turned this entire piece, this is the view you would see. So holding it like this and turning it like this. So this view right here is how thick it would be from the side profile. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit right here, and it should be on the blueprint, but I'll just draw it here just to make sure. So from this arrow to this arrow, this is the thickest point on the entire paper kunai, and the thickness is 1.250 inches or 3.175 centimeters. So you're gonna have to make 9 or 10 of them, and here they are right here. Now I recommend putting these underneath a textbook. You just put the textbook on there just like this. That's a lot of paper to dry, so I recommend keeping it under there for a day or even a little bit more than that. This will prevent everything from warping, and 16 layers is still pretty easy to cut through when it's dry, but once you go beyond 16 layers, it gets very hard to cut through. So I gave them some time to dry, and I'll just take out a random one right here. You can see I used a calendar for this one, I guess. As you can see, they are all very solid now and much more sturdy. So they shouldn't be warped at all if you kept them all underneath a textbook for a decent amount of time. So luckily, this diagram can fit on here twice. So I'm going to follow these lines right here and cut this shape out. So after cutting it out, it should look something like this, and we only needed to make about 10 of these instead of 20 to achieve this thickness, because we're able to fit it on here twice. As you can see, if you line it up like that, you can fit one, and then you can take this and put it over here, and you can fit another one. Stuff like this makes paper crafters very happy because you don't have to do as much work. So now I'm going to glue this piece on here just like this. Make sure there is enough room to fit it on the other side so you can, draw a line there or something like that. All of these template layers will eventually add up, because if you think about it, you need about 9 or 10 of them, 9 or 10 extra layers that will actually add additional thickness to this entire thing. So now you can cut it out. I found my metal ruler, luckily. Very convenient for this part, actually. So you want to keep it very stable and don't cut yourself, obviously, because cutting yourself kind of sucks. So you just line it up just like this with the line and begin cutting. I went over that a lot with the blade, and it's actually better to do light cuts and gradually cut it instead of a really hard cut, because that will make your fingers really tired and you won't be able to do as much. So you just do that on all of the straight edges. After it's cut out, you should have some scrap like this, and you should be able to fit another piece on there just like that. So that's very convenient. After it's cut out like this, you can take some super glue and go over all of the edges like this, and compress them together. And this will ensure that all of the layers stay together. Don't worry if the edges aren't perfect, we will be evening out the entire surface later. So I have the rest of all of the pieces right here, and I'm going to cut 2 of these out of each one of these. So I should have enough to reach the correct thickness. Alright, so I finished cutting all of these out, and it actually didn't take as long as I thought it was going to. So remember, I cut 2 of these shapes out of each one of these long rectangular shapes. Originally, I said you needed about 9 or 10 of these 16-layer rectangular shapes, but it turns out you only need about 8 or 9 of these. But it is always good to have a little bit left over. Alright, so now I'm going to put them together just to show you guys what it looks like. Wow, that is a lot of paper. It almost looks like a paper piece of pie or something like that. And it is 1.250, just like it should be right there. So that is perfect. So technically this should be 17 16-layer pieces. But since there is one blueprint layer glued to each one of these pieces, that means this entire thing is 17 17-layer pieces. Which means it is 289 layers of paper. So this is kind of what everything is going to look like. There is no chamfering on here or anything like that. But as you can see, the front profile view looks pretty much like it should, and obviously when these are all glued together it will look more like it should. And then you have the right side view right here, which is what you're going to see when you turn this like this. So just like that. And this is what it should look like once all the cutting is done. And the reason we stacked this entire thing up this thick is because we wanted to get it to the thickest part on here, the thickest part on the side profile. Now instead of stacking up this entire thing like this, we could have just made the middle part the longest and then make shorter pieces as it goes more toward the top. And as you can see, using the side profile, if this just continues out that way, you can fit shorter and shorter pieces because eventually it's all just going to get cut down anyway. But I wanted to make this as simple as possible, so I figured working from one big piece like this would make it a little bit easier. So we're not going to glue these together quite yet. We actually need to cut a channel in some of these middle pieces here that will later become the hole that the handle fits in. That is what these dashed lines are right there. And right here on the blueprint, obviously this has a blueprint layer over it, so it's a smaller diameter there and a bigger diameter here. Having a smaller diameter piece like that go inside of the front section here will make the entire thing much more stable.